Kelly? Pardon me? He was just gonna run through it with me.
Okay. Yeah, look at it. If your AOL, I think it's AOL.
Yep.
That's all loaded. You don't have to sign in. Just sign into that.
Okay. And click the link to the meeting or whatever. Yep. Okay,
If you have
great.
any questions,
Yep.
call me.
Well, tomorrow at 6:30, I think.
So you should be able to try to check it now. It's not
Yep.
live, and if you
Yep.
say that we didn't start yet,
Right.
give it a shot before that.
Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow morning. On that one, when I click on the meeting, it says it has to be upgraded to a higher version of Zoom. And I can't put, it's too old, I can't download new apps on it. So,
Yeah, I think this is brand new.
great. Well, lucky me.
But if you have any questions,
I'll call. Thank you.
So Bill, do you fly with your equipment or do you rent it?
We've done that in the past. I was gonna look into shipping them and having them there when we get there. There's 10 of us skiing plus the babies. So,
That's so cool. Does your wife ski too?
no,
Okay.
she babysits.
Nice. That's fun.
It's a big trip for us.
Yeah, that's great.
Half of my kids go out west 2 or 3 times a year. I've only gone twice. So,
Yeah. Yeah. One day.
yeah. Well, I think I got my Epic Pass.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
That's what makes it doable.
He keeps moving. This is why we sit next to you, Bill.
This is your stuff, right?
This is Tina's always giving us sweets. I love it.
She's the best.
2. Feel special now.
Oh, there they are.
Brendan must have been bad. He didn't get any.
There's very few times that he's good, you know? Misbehaving.
All right. Let's see.
I loved every second. I'm like, I didn't want my
I really was, I didn't think I would be, but I was pumped to get one.
my sister changed.
Oh my God. And it was so easy to go out and, you know, everybody was there. All the kids, the grandkids, it was a big time. We rented both sides. Both sides of the thing. You know, got to spend quality time with the grandkids, but we couldn't get her off the beach. She was always the last one on. 5 o'clock, you know, the grill's going and she's still down on the water.
Yeah.
Good. That week it's all good.
How's the field hockey going, Matt?
They just won again today.
Oh, wow.
So they are 5-0-1.
Nice.
So far, so good. We didn't know where they were going to be graduating 11. They had 11 seniors. So we're like, all right, let's see. Does everybody
Yeah, we were talking about like
kind of,
trying to
you know,
get both sides.
rise up to it? And so far, they've answered the bell.
As soon as
That's
the
great.
kids,
I have to catch a game one of these days.
For sure.
They're so good.
do it. Because I think they have to pay for the week childcare.
Hey, pal, how are you?
It's not your neck of the woods.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah. You're the jury duty.
Yeah, they didn't pick anybody. They sent us all home. 40 losers.
Make sure you can officially start the meeting.
Oh, yeah, gotta have that.
My cousin Catherine was like, this place is great. I didn't know it was in the courthouse. I thought it was still up on the hill. So I parked up there. And I looked at the address. Yeah. And I'm like,
Did he put, is this,
then
oh,
I see
here
the
it is,
address.
right here.
Like, what's going on here? So I went in.
Yeah, right.
So when I got done, when they kicked us off at 11, I went over and talked to her for 15 minutes. This place is huge.
Yeah, it is. There's
Homeless out front.
5 different courts I've been in there.
Yeah, we didn't have, when we were in the room, the kind of superior judge could just say the word no. If we were picked, it was all at the district level. Then we just, 10 minutes at 11, you know, come in
are you looking for, Bill?
Did I leave my, Kim,
I got
did
my
I
letter.
leave my blue pen down there? The one I have?
Oh.
No, that's the one
Is
I
that
have.
is that the one you took Tina's pen?
No. I thought you could take it out of your bag.
Well, I had it out for the marketing committee, that's why I.
Put it back in your bag when you went for the candy? She said, I put it down, I got the candy, brought the candy back.
How come you didn't get any candy?
Mine wasn't good this week, I guess. I got passed over. I didn't get to come to the other meeting either. I had to sit in the back room.
But you know what? It's not
You don't want
always
to be
that
on another
great.
subcommittee. Don't get enough going on.
Crapshoot of when it's gonna be.
55 and cloudy, dreary.
They could turn the heat.
There was one day.
Trying to get us out of here quick. Like, if I can, if they get comfortable, they want to stay, so.
It was freezing. That was the only day, it was the worst.
Waiting for a fearless
Oh,
leader.
where the heck? Oh, jeez, I did I give two to myself? I never.
You didn't give any to Brennan, so Brennan was very, yeah, he's not, no, he doesn't want it now. He doesn't want it now.
I'm going in a like diabetic. I might not make it. Be out of here by 8. I'll make it.
I've been like, I forgot my watch today. I've been like,
It's 7.
7.
It's 7.
Don't say just yet. I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Open the school committee meeting for Monday, September 16th, 2024. Have a motion to approve the bills.
So move.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to approve the minutes from our August 26th school committee meeting.
So move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I'll abstain.
Do we have any public comment today? Hearing none, we will close the public comment. Student representative?
Do not have a student rep who will next time, they're voting this week, I'm telling you, they're voting this week.
Listen, I'll work the polls if you need me to. Thanks, Scott. CTA.
I don't have anything prepared, but I just say congratulations to the elementary school teachers that the governor is going to be here on Thursday. Amazing.
It is amazing. PTA. No report.
Oh, sorry. Somebody's actually coming up.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi there. All right, so here's your update, and your bingo flyer is in here. We'll update you about bingo.
I guess doing something over the weekend. I got like 7 PTA emails, I think, in like 1 minute.
Okay, so we've made it to September. Feels like we've been in school for months. We are currently at 136 members and 500 contacts on our email list. We had a nice big bump from our old home day event, which was awesome. The 2024-25 calendar is available. Calendars are free for every paid membership and are on sale at our events for $20. Our next big event is Fall Bingo. You each have a flyer for that. It is in 3 languages, thanks to our bilingual liaison and a little bit of Google Translate, which is always helpful. It is posted with the LPAC office in the building. It's going out in backpacks. Middle school got it last week, elementary will get it this week, and they're sending it electronically at the high school. We are still looking for volunteers for the event, which is Sunday, September 29th. And a huge thank you to our 2 gold sponsors, a returning supporter with Rhoda Spring Farms and a first-time supporter of AB Aesthetics in Clinton. which does facials and massage and fun things that our board may take advantage of at some point. We're excited to go down and meet with them. We had our book fair at Old Home Day. We made over $3,000 in sales, which we received back about 40% back in Scholastic dollars to spend on Scholastic product, which is awesome. And let's see, we do have a bit.ly link set up for our PTA website, which has everything you need to know for sponsorships, meeting schedules, volunteer opportunities, and all that fun stuff. So our meeting schedule is listed at the bottom there as well. And then today, Becky sent us an awesome forwarded email from the Massachusetts State PTA, which is really our motivation for getting our membership numbers up really high. And they look at state and local levels of memberships at all PTAs that are state members. And they have incentives. So early bird incentives are submitting 100% of your numbers before November 1st, which we've already completed because we've beat last year's number. There are high flyers, which is beating your total by double. And then they have a powerhouse level, which is 300% over last year. And we were mentioned specifically by name and all of our board members listed in the state email today because we've already submitted our numbers by November 1st and made the early bird status.
Awesome.
So we try really hard to remember to read those emails so that Becky and I can share that awesome information with all of you because I know it seems so small sometimes, but our 136 is a lot. And we'd love to see, I think we just wanted to double, which would have been 216. And we'd love to see the 300 and have all of our calendars out there and then start again for next year. So that's where we're at for that. So if you have any questions or you need anything, we're just about everywhere. You'll
Book
find
fair
us.
was awesome at Old Home Day. The setup was
Thanks.
incredible. It was really good.
We can go bigger and better.
Really well done.
100%. We had face painting, we had the giveaway, we had macaroni necklaces, and you got to see all the stuff. If you were a parent and hadn't seen a book fair in a while, it was kind of neat that we got the parents to go in and see it. So,
You guys should
exciting.
sell multi-year memberships, so you don't have to hit me up every year.
I wish we could. I wish there was a way to like set it aside, but hey, finances get tricky. So I know. Where can we hide these checks for a year? But we're still doing it. We're still going. Plenty to come.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
CPAC? LPAC? Sure.
Hello.
How are you?
So this month we celebrate Spanish Heritage Month, and we're gonna have a little celebration with families in high school. And we're gonna have just games in the football field. We're gonna have board games. Some family want to bring some food and have just a little celebration. Today we put banners in all three schools celebrating the Spanish heritage, and we're gonna have our next LPAC meeting, the first one of this year, on the 24th. High school student gonna be helping with childcare, so that's gonna bring more parents to our meeting. That a huge help. Thank you to Mr. Shermack for that. And I think that's all for now. So planning to have a good meeting this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Meyer, over to you.
All right. So from a human resources standpoint, we hired some of our last minute hires. We had 3 IAs that we hired. One of them was our van driver who took a full-time position as an IA, so we had to hire a new van driver. So those were our new hires in the packet. We had 2 resignations, an IA from CES who left to take, I believe, a teaching position, and one of our teachers who I think is resigning to pursue a guidance position. So we have some of those openings. I did just hire 1 replacement IA today, so we are still pretty close to fully staffed. One of the positions we'll talk, the teacher resigned, we'll talk a little bit about that, and a different agenda item. We also have one retirement. Dave Vanass has informed us he's retiring December 13th, 2024. And so I do have food service discussion as an agenda item, just to talk to you about a couple things regarding how we move forward from there at the end of this report. Following that, I did try to include in here the list of pretty much everyone who works, well, I'd say everyone who gets like paid through the schools. So I guess one omission you would see is there's no cafeteria staff on here. They submit their payroll a little bit separately, so that's but this is, and custodial, same thing, because they're going through the facilities department. But as far as like IAs, administrative assistants, administrators, teachers, we tried to give you a list of pretty much who's where in the district and what positions they're in by school, just so you have a sense of any of the transfers or anything going on. That's more just for your information. I try just to give you an update so you can know the names you hear, or you know if someone got switched from one grade to another, those types of things. HR search, I forget who is serving on that committee for you guys? Is
I
that
am.
you are? And you guys have a meeting?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay, so that's moving along. I know she sent out the email. We have the resumes, so you guys will be working on that. And then substitute nurse rates. So what we're running into is we're having difficulty finding substitute nurses. We've actually found a couple that are willing to sub, but we're looking to try to see if we could get an increase in the nurse sub rate. Currently, our nurse substitute rate's $150. I'm requesting we increase that rate to $220. That's an approximate hourly rate of $35.20. The rationale for this is a lot of times when we get a substitute for a classroom, they're not necessarily like a licensed teacher, right? They're a substitute that's there to kind of help supervise first, and then whatever education they can provide is a little bit sort of secondary. When we get a substitute nurse, though, we need to actually get a licensed nurse, right? So when you're trying to get a licensed nurse, you're now competing with, why would they come work for us when they could take a per diem shift at Clinton Hospital and make way more than that? So this gets us a little bit more competitive. I know it's still less than they would make in the hospital setting, but we think that it's enough that a couple of the nurses that have been working with us are more likely to accept the fact that these are better hours for them and try to give us some more opportunities, as opposed to just taking per diem shifts at the hospital. So I don't think it'll have a huge impact on the budget. There's not a ton of nurses. I don't think it's anything that's going to drive us like over, but we can always watch that line as we go through the year. But I just think this gives us more options to keep some of the nurses that we've tried to recruit. One of them in particular worked our summer program, and she did a great job. She's multilingual, and she hopes to try to get her license through DSE to maybe become a school nurse. So we'd like to try to retain her. So if you're comfortable with increasing the nurse rate, I'd probably take a motion to approve that. If you have any questions, I can answer.
I mean, I'll entertain a motion for purpose of discussion if there is any.
So move.
Second.
Any thoughts or discussion?
I'm assuming we kind of looked at other surrounding.
Yeah, that's kind of where this
districts and what
figure
they're
kind of
paying
came
and-
from, yeah. We talked to we got this through our lead nurse, through kind of the nurse chat groups about kind of what the more of a going rate was to attract licensed nurses. Yep.
Any additions, any discussion, anything else? No? All in favor?
All right, thank you. Student
I'll
enrollment.
call Judy McGrail and let her know.
Yeah.
Maybe she'd still want it.
Right, she might pick up some extra shifts now. She's not here tonight. The one
No,
meeting
I
she's
know,
not
she's
here, I
not.
give her a raise. No, I'm just kidding. Just an enrollment update. Our enrollment actually, our September 12th enrollment compared to our August 23rd enrollment was actually down a few students. There was 9 less than we had at the beginning of the year. but what you can see is it's kind of varies where those changes came. Our younger grades mostly increased, including an increase of 17 additional students at the kindergarten level, which brought that up to 178 kids in kindergarten right now, which means the approximate class size 22. So it's a good thing that we didn't make that increase to the 8th section when we started seeing those numbers growing. And you can see that the 6th grade is 19 less than we anticipated. And I just made a note there, that's primarily students that got accepted to AMSA, went to AMSA. There might be some other stragglers in there, not say all 19, but that was where that's why that number is probably the one that jumps off the page. The other one was freshmen, there's 6 which were more miscellaneous, but there might be students who just chose to attend high school other places, so.
Steve, was the 19, not that you might, not to put you on the spot, but do we know if that's in line with what we've seen in previous years, or are we seeing more or less to lose 19 6th graders? I know it's usually where we see the defection anyway, it's usually around that time.
I want to say I feel like that might be, that 19, well, so I haven't confirmed all 19 of those are AMSA, I'd have to look into the numbers. But I know that's why that number is not like 5, right? I think if it is all 19, that's probably a little higher. I think we're normally around more like, I'm going to guess it's more like 12.
Okay.
But I can double check those numbers when we get, as we go through. So curriculum and instruction, I'll probably try to schedule a curriculum instruction meeting for October. This is still September, right? Yeah, not only like halfway through, right? For October, one of the big changes that we're looking at is, so the teacher that resigned to pursue a guidance position at the middle school was our executive functioning teacher. That's one of the specials that we had for 7th and 8th graders. And it was really something that we developed coming back from COVID to really try to just help transition students back into the normal school day. And it was one of those things where we started some discussions last year about how that class might have sort of run its course, where now we're getting far enough away. And one of the things we wanted to look at was possibly swapping that out in the near future and trying to bring back foreign language at the middle school. So one of the things we're looking at is now we have posted, just to see what we could find, is to try to see if we could get what we're calling it like a world language and culture course, to try to focus on probably some, world language and cultures, probably focusing primarily on like Spanish and Portuguese if we could, just so that we can really offer that, at least that, beginning conversational type stuff, survival type stuff at the middle school level. That was even actually one comment through the whole building process of the MSBA. That was actually one comment that they had about the fact that we didn't have any world language at the middle school level. So I think it is something that I think we should. Right now we have some 8th graders that can take it through dual school, but trying to get more of a class that exposes everyone to the world languages. So we're working on that right now, trying to see if there's even a candidate pool that we can get from. And at the October curriculum meeting, we'll probably try to map out a little more of what the goals would be for that. Probably try to work with our high school foreign language department to see what we might be able to get for support for that curriculum. Another big one is Infinite Campus. So one of the big processes that we tried this year was, so if you remember with Infinite Campus, one of the goals was it has a lot of modules, right? So that you can try to, over time, the goal is to try to sort of centralize all of our information into really one student information system. So we're not always trying to sync this data from that data and all that kind of stuff. Typically, the less times you can handle data, the cleaner it's going to be, right? So this year, the module we were trying to roll into, actually starting last year, was the special education module. So we're trying to phase out of eSped and phase into the Infinite Campus module. And part of the timing of that was trying to go along with the state's new IEP form. So we had some difficulties with that. in our transition process over the summer, with just sort of how we synced the data over from eSped, and then trying to capture some of the forms that we had done prior to Infinite Campus releasing their kind of module on the new IEP form. So we were doing a lot of data transitioning. What we found when school opened was that we were unable to really access those IEPs through the channels we would like to be able to access them to. It should be user-friendly for the teachers, and it wasn't. And we've kind of tracked that down to figure out what the issues were, and we found out for a lot of them it was a simple fix, as far as we just needed to lock it, confirm that this was locked as the final IEP. Once it's locked, now it would work so the teachers can access the locked IEP, but everything that had been brought over was still basically listed as like a draft form, so when a teacher would try to view an IEP, it wouldn't show them anything. So we had a big meeting. One of the things we did was we printed everything off of eSped. We kind of went old school just to at least get us a baseline data point. We printed the IEPs off of eSped to make sure that we had the current IEPs from there available to teachers regardless of what the status was in Infinite Campus. So we wanted to make sure that information, teachers could access that information, and for years and years and years, that's how teachers accessed IEPs. They actually went down and looked at a binder and said, this is Johnny's IEP, and made notes on it of what they needed to do, and went on. So we have that system set up right now, and then what we're starting is sort of I've been calling them parties. I don't know if they're really parties, but special ed IEP parties. So we had the first one today with the high school staff. We kind of freed up the high school special ed teachers, brought them down to central office. They all started going through their caseloads, proofing the IEPs. We did have a lot of data entry that was done over the summer. They were proofing that data entry, and then we were getting to a point where we could say, yes, these are all clean, and lock them so that they're available. So the high school is the first group that did it. They made a lot of progress today. I think almost all of them are done. There are a couple liaisons might have a couple, or I think one might have a handful, but they made a lot of progress today. And it was actually really good, because there were even some things that with the transition that needed to get cleaned up that we didn't really know until we kind of went through it today. So I think that was a good process. And we have it scheduled the rest of the week. Tomorrow we're bringing some middle school teachers down. Wednesday and Thursday we're bringing some of the elementary teachers down. And then I think the last group that's scheduled is pre-K on the PD day on the 27th. So hopefully we'll try to get all of them in there, cleaned up, and just make sure that we have all our data as clean as we can get. So it's one of those things that happens when you do a transition. You can have the best laid plans, and we did one sync. We were planning on doing a second data sync. That got delayed. We started doing some manual transitioning that sort of created like what I always like to call it's like a parallel data path, which then meant I really couldn't sync over again, because at this point I would rewrite over the work that I did, and now you're kind of
it's a versioning nightmare.
Yeah, so we just had to kind of say, let's say where we are, let's get the information to teachers, and then now let's start going forward and clean it up. So I think we should be in a pretty good spot by the end of the week.
Couple more parties, and you'll be ready.
Couple more parties, yeah.
Couple more.
I did promise them lunch, and all of a sudden I lost track of time, and Kelly comes into me today at like 11:50 or something. She's like, they're asking for lunch. Am I supposed to be getting them lunch? I'm like, oh yeah.
Whoopsie.
So we'll work on our hosting skills, but maybe a few more parties. All right. Funding and finance. We have a couple things that just need your approval. The first one is the petty cash. So if you make an approval so that we can take $600 from the athletic revolving account, basically that's just for the.
It's like a seed money.
It's primarily the seed money for the gates.
The gate,
Yep. And then that just gets deposited back in at the end of the year.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the $600 for petty cash for the athletic department.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Thank you. All right. And then student activity accounts are listed in here. what we need to do is we need to approve the student activity accounts every year. So you can see the first page has the current student activity accounts that we would be running. Those are our normal ones. The second page is typically we're supposed to close out those balances for the graduating classes pretty much within like a year, or 2 years, sorry, 2 years from graduation. We're seeking approval for a one-time amendment to allow those senior classes to withdraw their balances during FY25, and then they would basically forfeit those amounts if they didn't get them out by the end of this year. And part of that is just sort of just making sure that we've reached out to those classes, particularly classes like 19 and 20, around, you know, right around the COVID time, trying to track them down and give them a chance to move their money out. It should be fine. It's one of those things like in an audit, they'll say, well, you're supposed to have closed this account. If we make a motion to say, hey, we're giving them one more year, it won't be a finding in the audit, and then we'll try to track them down and see if we can get those closed this year so we can clean it up.
So these are fundraising balances per these graduating classes. If you don't track them down and they don't withdraw that money and do something with it, does it become house money? Is it just, like, what happens with it?
Yeah, I think, does it go in our gifts and donations? Where would that go, or would it land?
You have to decide what you use the money for, so it will be another approval.
Okay.
So if it became forfeit, then you guys would be able to say, put it to athletics, PTA,
Every
whatever
few
you want.
years, you have a poor class that.
Yeah.
Someone just left $9,000 on the table, just
Yeah.
left
Right.
it there. Great job raising it, just not great job
I
spending it.
haven't seen those balances in a
Okay.
while, but I will certainly make the motion that we approve the student activity accounts as well as allow the senior class balances to be carried over till June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Discussion?
Just a question on that. It says concession stand. I thought the boosters kept that. Is it two separate things?
Do we have concession stand on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I thought it was, I thought the senior class always
I
got
don't know,
the
man.
concessions.
I thought it was the boosters, but I.
Did
Well,
the
the last few
boosters take it
years,
over?
been
the last
boosters.
few years has been boosters. I think they amended the agreement, but the
Mr.
booster
Sarmak,
still has
Are we
it.
actually getting any deposits into the concession stand at this point? No, we were gonna put that into, I think the most recent agreement that we,
Like a maintenance fee or something, right?
right, and what we were gonna do is we were gonna put it in rental of facilities
Okay.
so that we could use it to maintain, they're giving a small percentage to rental of facilities. They met with the boosters to discuss it, and then that's so that we can do any necessary maintenance or
Yeah,
upgrades
cleaning,
into the
maintenance.
concession. So, if you want to, you could
No,
amend it
no.
to strike it, or we could just keep it for now, and maybe work on closing it out next year. I don't know if there's a balance in there or not.
It's cool.
Okay.
So the monies that we do get from the concession stand, they go into the concession stand account?
No, so
And then
we
they get
don't-
transferred to the rental?
Right now, we don't handle any of the money from the concession stand. The boosters have been running it. So they run it, they take them, they have their funds, and then they give us a percentage. And I think we just worked that agreement out with them this summer, and they're given, it's not a big percentage, but it's a small amount that we're gonna put into the maintenance of facilities account, so that we can just use it towards maintaining, you know, when something breaks in that concession stand, we can fix it, so.
Okay.
That's that's how that goes. You're right, it used to be the classes and all that kind of stuff. It hasn't been that for quite a while.
So do we want to make a note then in the motion that says that excluding the concession stand, because that doesn't exist, or?
Why don't we, if you guys are okay with it, why don't we, if we approve them as is right now, let me double check
Okay,
on it,
that's
because if
fine.
there's a balance in
If there's a
there, I
balance,
want to
roll
make
it
sure we
over to the
liquidate it, and then
rentals or
maybe we can
something.
always amend it
Okay.
at a future meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
We're good. Did we vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Then, the concession stand account is there for, if the boosters need startup money, if we're the concession stand startup money to buy that first round of food, so that after they sell, they put it back in there. That's all.
That makes, so it's some seed money that way too.
That's all it's
Got
been
it.
used for?
Okay.
All right, well, so we have it in there right now. We'll discuss it, and if we need to make any changes, we'll bring it back to you. Thank you. All right. So the bus bid process, we are out of extension years in our contract, so we will have to go back out to bid for busing. I already talked to Sid a little bit about it, because I am gonna have to pick her brain about some of our ridership numbers, because we're gonna have to think about, when we do the bid, things like Assabet. We've routinely included 2 Assabet buses in our bid. We don't have enough to need 2 Assabet buses right now. However, those Assabet buses do typically do elementary runs already, so it's not like we can say, well, we're just gonna cut buses, because we kinda need them still. And then the other part was, this contract will actually be in existence, this next contract will be still in existence when the new school opens, which is intended to have the 4th grade moving up there. So then we gotta impact, like, what does that ridership, kind of project, how would that potentially impact it? Or if we don't have to have that all spelled out, we at least just have to acknowledge in the bid that, you know,
Timing can change.
we would have to, you know, reassess, you know, we might establish rates, we'd have to reassess needs or something like that at the, you know, prior to the opening of the new school. So those are just a couple things. We're bringing it up kind of early so that we can get the process going early, so hopefully we have some good numbers by the time the budget happens and we're not waiting until the 11th hour. But there are 2 policies I want you just to be aware of. I don't need you to take any action on them tonight. I just want to bring up the discussion. So the first one is student transportation services. This one just talks about how the school system will contract for transportation services. Contracts will be awarded on a competitive bid basis by the school committee. Talks about some of the qualifications that we put in there and those types of things. So this one's pretty standard. It just says that we're doing it. The second one is student transportation services. So, do I have, sorry. I have that in there twice, so I don't know if you do. Walkers and riders, sorry, EEAA. So this policy, the way it was written, it says students will be entitled to transportation to and from school at the expense of the public schools when transportation conforms with applicable provisions of the Massachusetts general laws. Reimbursement to the school system for transportation costs is given by the Commonwealth only for students living at least 1.5 miles from school, students who live more than 1 mile from the nearest bus stop, students with special needs from transportation must be provided. So, you can see the way this policy is written. Really, it's basically saying that, you know, grades 1 to 3, we wouldn't be busing them more than one, unless they live more than 1 mile from the school, 4 to 6, more than 1.5, and 7 to 12, 1.5. We don't follow that policy right now, right? We bus a lot, our bus stops are much shorter, and we bus within that. And, but part of that is because we're not eligible for reimbursement at all. Like the way this reads, it says reimbursement for the school system for transportation costs is given to the Commonwealth only for, well, the Commonwealth only reimburses regional school districts for transportation. So we're not eligible for reimbursement anyway. So in a way, it's sort of like these don't apply to us as much as they would, you know, when I was superintendent in a regional school district. You know, literally, someone would have to go out and you'd basically, like, if there was a question on a bus stop, you would drive it and literally try to measure the distance, because if I was busing, you know, if I was making an exception within a mile, that could jeopardize our reimbursement, right? Or we had to do ridership counts, we do all these different types of things for the reimbursement that we're not eligible for. So I'm only bringing this policy up because, primarily, it's because we're not following it, but it's almost like we're not following it because it's not really applicable in the sense of the reimbursement, which is sort of the context that it's written. But my bigger question on revisiting this policy is, do we want to revisit any of these guidelines or set any type of policy prior to going out to bid?
Right.
Because
now would be the time.
Because that would have ramifications on, like, you know, if we're saying, hey, we're not going to bus anyone within a half mile of the school or 3/4 mile from the school or whatever it is, that could have an impact on the number of students, which could have an impact on the number of buses, right? So those are just something that, like I said, I'm not asking you for a decision right now. I'm trying to bring this up now in September so we can kind of think about it, process it, I can get you any types of numbers as we, if we want to start looking at like, well, what would that mean? Where exactly are our stops now? How many are there? Like, we're going to do more research. It's not just something where I want us to blindly say something, but I just think it's something worth bringing up is that this is essentially the model policy for walkers and riders, because it's based on the idea that you're a school district that would be getting regional school district bus transportation reimbursement, okay? And like I said, we don't as a town, so we're not really forced to comply with this policy, but it doesn't mean we can't have our own policy, right? And it is a local policy, so really we should be following it. We just haven't been, and I don't think tomorrow we won't want to say like, hey, we just found this policy, so we're not busing you if you live within a mile from, we're not coming to your house anymore, you're within a mile. But if we want to review it, be thoughtful about it, and make more strict, not strict, but clear, refreshed guidelines that we want to follow as we go into the new bid, that might be beneficial. So we might be something that we want to, kind of maybe, I'll try to do a little more homework on it. Maybe we can refer it to a policy subcommittee and then bring it back. I just wanted to get on everyone's radar that that's something that I think we should, at a minimum, clean the policy up so it reflects our practice, or potentially look at to clarify what is the practice we want going forward.
Yeah, and the impacted groups, right? I mean, as you start looking at the grades and the number of students that are actually within that mile that we're talking about, I mean, you start looking at like, that's how many kids there are, and what does that really mean? Let's just say there's 50. Well, if there's 50 kids, like, what does that really mean we're saving in regards to busing? Well, nothing, but that's a political nightmare to tell parents now that they don't have busing and they did before. Versus if it's a much larger number, then there may be something we have to look at. But I mean, I think I'd want to know, like, how many students are impacted in each group that are literally within that mile that we're talking about.
Right.
Because it might not be that many, or it might be a ton. Like, I mean,
Yeah. So I think that's what we need to do is look at, and I'll probably work with Sid DeLeo from D-Bus. I'll probably work with her to get sort of the mapping of those stops and like the numbers that we have at those stops, just to try to start getting a sense of what would those impacts be.
Sure.
And, and I think sometimes it's been, sometimes we have had basically like an elementary bus stopping at like High Street and then turning the corner and coming down to the elementary school, and you're like, that's ridiculous. Why you guys could have left out the back door and just been there?
right?
So there might be something that's worth having some policy. But to your point, if it just means we're going to exclude, 10 kids from Burnett Hill from getting on the bus who've been riding it their whole life, we don't want to do that.
Cool.
So, all right. Anyway, so that was just like I said, that's more of like a heads up, big picture thing as we prepare for getting into bus bid season. All right. Just a couple heads up, this could almost fall under subcommittee too, but the safety committee did meet. We then had a follow-up meeting regarding the RAVE communication system. So the town has the RAVE communication system. It's their emergency communication system. They have a panic button feature that you can use, and it's designed more for schools and stuff, where it's like it's like an app to easily alert things on your phone. It's supposed to kind of be able to like overlay maps and positioning and tell you kind of if you hit an alert where you are and all that kind of stuff. So we've been looking into trying to maybe expand to add that communication here. And one of the things we want to do is just talk about RAVE overall. I think one of the things that the chiefs, Chief Lutz and Chief Coyne, wanted to do was kind of start using the dispatch as sort of like a RAVE central command, so they kind of know so that they're staying current on the training and they know how to use it. And because RAVE is one of those things, like, I might send out messages, but I'm always sending them out through our student information system. If it's now an emergency, it might be the first time I've had to log into that in a year or something, right, or 3 years. So we want to make sure that we're having people who are staying current on it, if we're going to use it. And we were trying to find a system that we could use for emergency notification that would then link to the towns, so that we're not now adding like, we have our student information system, town has an emergency system. We didn't want to layer like a third layer on this. We wanted to try to integrate it so that we can all talk to each other now. Once there's a critical incident, we're all able to get all the same things. So, so we had a follow-up meeting with with Town Administrator Ward on this. He was on board with it. Since then, I know that Chief Coyne and Town Administrator Ward have had, I think, 2 or 3 different meetings with Rave, with different virtual meetings with different account managers and salespeople and stuff. And I think now we're at the point where the next meeting, I was just talking to Mr. Ward today, we're probably going to loop in to me to try to really focus just on the panic button aspect. I think they were doing a little bit of just kind of catching up to make sure how was the town using the system versus what all the features that they have, and then now we're going to get into the panic button layering. So hopefully we'll make us some headway on that. Currently we are using Remind, which is a free kind of app that's really designed more for like teachers to send out messages to classes. We kind of set up like fake classes and we've used them. We did run a test of the Remind system. I think we were about 90%. We did a follow-up survey. About 90% people said they received the Remind notification, which is actually more. I think it was like 87 or something. We also did a text message through our student information system. When you combine the two, it was something like 98%. So through our 2 methods of communication, we got almost everyone, just similar to the numbers we had last year when we tested it. But we would still like to move to something a little more reliable and something that's meant for communication, that you can kind of already have some, the Rave system, you can really have pre-recorded message, scenarios in there, stored documents in there, that kind of stuff, so that you really are integrating all that. The only other safety thing, fire drills and lockdown drills. We did have our fire drills at all the buildings already. We have to have those like the first week of school. Those all went well. No complaints. And we met, and we do have a lockdown drill. We'll be conducting one in October. We'll be reviewing those procedures with staff and students in the end of this month, beginning of next month, and then we'll be running a drill for that. A couple more updates here. Tiered focus monitoring. This is kind of the DESE sort of compliance checks on us. We're pretty much always somewhere in the TFM cycle, but it's really every 3 years. There's a set of them that they look at. So for civil rights, there's not a lot for civil rights due this cycle, but we have to get our self-study in by the 20th. We have most all of it done. A lot of that's focusing just on access to programs and courses. The Office of Language Acquisition, which is basically for English as a second language or multilingual learners. Their site visit, we've submitted our information. Our site visit with them is actually a virtual visit, which will be held January 20th and 21st. And our special education visit, we have to submit a bunch of compliance paperwork for special education. They go through files, they do all that kind of stuff. That has been scheduled for on-site, in-person, the week of March 10th. So we have all those fun compliance things going, but they're good. They keep it's why we try to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and they'll come in and they'll tell us what we're doing well and what we need to fix, and we'll just try to keep moving. The middle school project, building committee's next meeting is tomorrow. That's a virtual meeting at 6:30. Working groups, I just want to let people know that, I know it might not seem like there's a lot going on. I know if you're not involved, in the middle school or anything like that, you might be like, hey, well, they approved the middle school. What's happening with that? Like, where's the construction or whatever? There is a lot going on behind the scenes. I know we've talked about some of the testing they've done, but there's a lot of these working groups that are meeting again. So for example, when they did the initial design and the concepts and everything, they met with a whole bunch of a group. So for example, you might have one with just guidance counselors, one with a nurse, one with science teachers, one with music teachers, those types of things. And they use that to kind of come up with sort of the preliminary design. And now that the building is official and been approved, before we go out to bid on things, you basically revisit all these things and say, okay, let's really look at it again. This is what we heard you say you wanted. This is what we drew. How's that work, right? And some of the things might change a little bit, some might not. I just know because it was a very good discussion that we had with, like, when we did the guidance in front office one, there were some changes where we kind of like added a couple doors to connect to like offices or conference rooms and stuff that just, we're gonna make it a lot more user-friendly from the, you know, when you sit and you think about running the day-to-day operations of the school, there's times I'm gonna be needing to get from here to here and I don't wanna run around here, right? So just those little key things, you know, meeting with a nurse and thinking about, okay, what does this look like if there's one nurse in this office? Well, when we move fourth grade up here, what's this look like if there's two nurses in the office, right? And are we making the space flexible enough to accommodate that? So different things like that. So there's a lot of those that have been going on. So just so people are aware, and I'll try to get some more information out of this, that, you know, they're working on building these, the schematic design, or the bid documents, I guess it is. And we're working now, our next, I think, milestone is the 60% document completion. And at that point, they'll be able to start doing, I think, some of the preliminary bidding, and then we keep working towards the 90% and then going from there. So, but I'll try, we did have a marketing meeting earlier today, and we talked about trying to communicate some of this stuff. So one of our next meetings, I'll try to, you know, try to map this out a little bit better so we can get it out there. We're still looking at, just as far as people are concerned, we are looking at hopefully groundbreaking in the spring at some point, whether it's going to be before school's out or like right after school's out, or whether that's going to be like April vacation. It could all really depend on the winter, you know, so we'll see how that goes. And the target date for opening the school is September of 2027. They have done they are going to come in and do some test pits to check the soil on the 26th and the 27th. The 26th there is school, so they're going to be doing some test pits, but they're going to be out in the fields. So we've talked to the administration about that. 27th they're going to be doing some test pits that are closer to the school, but that's a professional development day, so we've scheduled that around that schedule. And they are coming out, I think, next week to do some acoustical baseline testing, which is basically they just kind of figure out what the noise is at the school on a day-to-day basis, so that we can try to have a baseline so that we know kind of what noise level we need to try to keep our construction to, so we're not bothering the neighbors. Reduce noise pollution. All right. And then the last one I have, and this is another one where I'm not asking for a decision tonight, it's something that I want you to think about. But with the food service director retiring, there are two things we could do. One is we could just post and hire a new food service director and maintain our own sort of in-house cafeteria staff, just like we've always done. The other option would be we could do sort of like an RFP and see if there were any outside vendors and sort of subcontract out our food services. Some districts have gone that route, and part of that, I think, is it helps you a little bit maybe with your purchasing power and things like that, because, you know, there's you know, companies, those big companies, same ones that might work like stadiums and colleges and that kind of stuff, that will bid out, and they'll kind of run your cafeteria services. Typically, when they come on board, they hire your staff, your existing staff, so it's like people don't necessarily lose their job. They might just instead of being a Town of Clinton employee, they would now become a, you know, employee for that contractor. So I don't know, you know, I don't know which one. I'm not pushing it one way or the other. I'm just saying that, you know, I know that David Nass has been here for a long time. He's retiring. It's just before we just jump and post his job, I wanted to at least present it to the board to say other districts have gone this route, and with some of the cost of food and those types of things, I think some of the districts have found it to be advantageous because it increases some of their purchasing power, or essentially the you know, whatever company is your subcontractors doing all the purchasing and then just distributing to you in the local level. So so there's, you know, I'm not saying it's perfect or necessarily even better for our situation. The question is just, is it something that we might want to even pursue, or is that something we don't have any interest in and we want to kind of keep everything local and in-house? And I'm fine with either one. I just didn't want to jump the gun without at least presenting it to you as, you know, understanding that that is an option. And the other thing I would say, if you wanted more information on it, I could check into it. I think Neshoba just did it. I think they're in their first year with a new company right now.
Are there a lot of companies out there to do that, Steve, or are there like just a couple of main players that are probably enough to investigate? We're not talking about tons of people in that pool probably, right? There's probably a
Right,
couple companies that
there's
do
probably, there's probably a handful that do most of them.
it. It'd be worth at least, you know, again, it's like anything else. Now's the time, right? If we're gonna investigate, you might as well just have the facts, have the data.
I mean,
understand
I
where
could
things
at
are going.
least, maybe Annette and I could at least try to talk to a representative from one of those companies or so, just to at least get a little more information on how their process would work.
Sure.
And then I could bring that back to you guys, just so you'd have a little more understanding of what the process would look like, and then what that would mean for our staff, what that would mean for our students, in terms of like options or costs, that kind of stuff, so that you could have the information. Does that sound, I'll get a little more information on it.
Sure.
I just wanted to, like I said, I'm just bringing it up as a discussion. I didn't expect any answer tonight. You guys can, you know, put your feelers out and have your conversations, and you're certainly allowed to let me know, or next time we bring it up, share anything that you might have on it. And we'll try to get a little more information. I'm sure there's someone looking for new accounts that'll come tell us what the process would be and tell us why it would be the best idea ever, and we can try to sort through that and see what we can get you for some more information, okay? And then we can make a decision of whether that's something we wanna pursue, like an RFP, or do we say, you know what, this doesn't sound like it's for us, let's just, you know, stay the course. So, I did have a conversation with Beth Armstrong, who is, you know, essentially Dave Manasseh's assistant. I'm blanking on her official title, but essentially, she, I think, is I've told her all of this, and she was, and she's confident in her ability to kind of keep things running. So I don't think we're under, you know, it's almost like if we don't have someone in place by December 13th, she would be willing to keep everything going in some sort of interim capacity until we figure out what we want to do. So I don't think there's I know he's retiring December 13th. I don't think that's like a panic deadline. I think we would be okay at that point. But I think we would want it. So I think really we're talking more
Next school year.
yeah, like getting our ducks in a row. And we might be able to post and like if the decision is we want to stay with the food service director, we might be able to post and get that process moving earlier. We don't necessarily have to wait till next school year. But I don't think, like I said, I just don't think it's not you know, we're not going to have emergency meetings because December's coming up. You know, we have time to make it work if we want to, and if we don't, that's fine too. All right. I think that's all I had. I'm cutting it close.
Thanks.
You didn't leave the chairman much time.
For advisory committees, I think last time we were together, we said curriculum and instruction. We were targeting maybe like mid to late October for that.
Yeah, I'll try to
Let things
schedule that
settle.
like mid-October, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Safety committee sounds like you guys met just this last week, and you gave us an update on that tonight. Marketing subcommittee met today. And then policies and procedures, I imagine that'll come up with, you know, pending review of EEA and EEAA as you kind of dip your toe into that.
Yeah, so I'll probably reach out to that subcommittee and try to get something, not super urgent, but at least something so we can get together and look at what we might have to, other policies too that we might have on the docket to review.
Anything urgent or update around facilities? I know we got Brian's update like 2 meetings ago. I think we were in good shape there. And then I know there was email going back and forth, Steve, with you and Mike around the budget finance and kind of trying to get some information on, you know, where that might be best suited to start from a communication perspective. Did Mike indicate where, like, do they have specific
It sounded to me like they
rotations on
didn't
a meeting
necessarily
like
have
that?
quite the standing committee, like it might be more of like maybe a seasonal committee. I think the finance committee was just meeting maybe last week or something like that, just to really do their reorganization with their new board. So it sounds like they're just sort of kicking off. So I think we've tried to get the lines out there.
Yep.
So hopefully we can get looped in and you know, it doesn't seem like it's as regular, but I think that probably once we get a little closer, I'm sure they'll be willing to, it sounds like they'll be willing to meet with us, yeah.
And at this point, nothing on negotiations, right? I mean, I know we've set who's gonna represent the school committee when that happens, but we don't have anything that's going on right now, just yet.
No, not yet.
Okay. Anything under old business? New business?
I got, well,
No, go ahead. You're
Two things
You're on a roll.
two things I would say is, I know Kelly sent this out, the Clinton Area Chamber of Commerce is having their annual meeting. It's at evening, it's October 23rd in the evening this year. I know I'm gonna attend, I know I was the keynote speaker last year, I feel like I'm obligated to attend now to show, but, so she sent out, I think, Tina, did you say you wanted to go? And I just didn't know if anyone else wanted to go, so we can book those if you're interested. The other one, the more exciting one, I think, and I know Mr. Cesar alluded to it, but we do have the governor, the Secretary of Education Tutwiler, and Acting DESE Commissioner Johnston. Right now, they're scheduled to visit Clinton Elementary School on Thursday. I always try to phrase it that way because I know with their schedules anything can happen, but they're scheduled to come on Thursday. And really that's in recognition of the early literacy work that's being done at Clinton Elementary School. Very similar to the same reason why we had WCVB, I think it was, earlier in the year come to take some footage. So it's just nice to see the staff at Clinton Elementary School getting some recognition. I know they've worked really hard, and they did a lot of that stuff. You know, they were tackling a lot of new stuff as we were going through, coming out of the pandemic, and it was a time when I think a lot of districts maybe weren't taking on the new stuff, and I think it's now starting to pay off, and they're getting some recognition for it, and I think it's well deserved. So
It's awesome.
So sure. Real quick, just something to thought. So we've had no user fees for sports for 6 or 7 years now, and it's come up over the last couple of years. But I couldn't bring it up then because my son was one of the students who was co-oping somewhere else. So what I'd like to do is just put the thought into. Somebody gave me the numbers last year. I just don't know what they were, but we don't have that many of the school either reimbursing or paying the user fee for our students that co-op with other schools. So, in other words, like right now, our kids play, all the sports that are in Clinton, we don't pay anything. But when you co-op, you pay whatever that school charges. So is there a way that we can either pay it up front for them, or they can, I don't know which is ever easier. And really, if you get okay with the AD and crunch the numbers first, because I remember the numbers I had last year didn't seem like a lot.
Yeah.
And to be clear though, just the user fee, I know hockey has some like hidden costs with
ice time.
and I'm just talking with the $100 you pay up front or whatever, if there's a way that we could pay those parents or pay that for them, just give them, I mean, they have to co-op, because we just don't have enough kids to play that sport here in Clinton. So if we could just kind of look at that number and
All right, I will talk to, and now's a good time to bring it up because we don't have any co-ops in the fall.
I thought I missed it. That's
Yeah,
why I
yeah.
asked you that. Okay.
So we will have usually hockey and
Wrestling.
wrestling in the winter, and then probably the lacrosse in the spring. So
Yep.
we can try to look at that and maybe see if we can dig up a little bit of historical data and get an approximate cost and see what that would look at. And even if it's, I would say I think it's a good, regardless of, even if it's capped at a certain amount or something like that, at least something that's sort of a good faith gesture that, we used to charge this for user fees here, we don't charge any, so at least credit you this much or something like that, whatever we can afford, yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Still kept it under an hour, but that was pushing.